Welcome to our presentation. My name is Erin Cameron. You'll see also on this call is Chelsea Komschlies. We've for the past about year and a half, we've been working on a project together, which we're going to talk to you a little bit about, and then we'll have room for questions at the end. And I will add, Chelsea has two very wonderful, perfect children who might also be making an appearance on the call. So if you hear them, they are also with us. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and share for you the little bit of information we have for you about this project that we've been doing. Let me see if I can get that going. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. If you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, just make sure we've got everybody. Okay, awesome. So like I mentioned, we have been working on this project for about a year and a half now. And Chelsea, in addition to being a composer and flutist, is also a visual artist. And so this is an AI generated image that kind of formed the basis of this composition that we've been working on together. And she'll have a chance to talk a little bit more about that. So our presentation is called Rethinking Collaboration. And so over the course of the past year and a half, while we've been working together, I think both of us have had a really unique collaborative experience, just finding new ways to work closely between performers and composers to create really unique sounds. So I want to talk to you a bit about that. Little background about us. I think I actually know pretty much everyone on this call, but if I don't, my name is Erin Cameron. I teach at Arkansas State University, and I would consider myself a performer first and a composer second, but I do like to do both. And I'll let Chelsea introduce herself as well.
Hi. Thank you, Erin. I'm Chelsea Komschlies, and I'm a composer currently based in Montreal, Canada. I'm from the States, and I won't be speaking as much because I'm alone with my two very young daughters, and so it's a little bit chaotic. But yes, I am working on my PhD currently, finishing up at McGill right now, and it's been a joy to work on this piece.
I thought I would actually, Chelsea, if you're good to do it to talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the piece and a little bit about the image that I have here on the side.
Sure thing. Here's my elder daughter. So for this piece, I started by thinking about the sound possibilities for bass clarinet and all the wonderful extended techniques and especially the spectral multiphonic type of techniques it can do. And those are really connected to certain kinds of imagery for me, like very dark colors for one, and sort of like science, sci-fi undertones like possible. So I thought of doing a sort of sci-fi scenic piece, and so this planet is made up, Echo 9, and I was picturing a planet that was very dark and spiky. Actually, the other bass clarinet piece I have is about ferrofluid. I don't know if anyone knows.
I get
Okay,
ready to.
okay, let's see. I'm speaking right now. Sorry. Okay, sorry. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So it's actually kind of like similar imagery, but so this is a sci-fi piece about the scenery, but also about like trying to capture the feeling of what if you were looking at this planet from its surface and how amazingly different and weird it would be. So trying to capture like the emotions of that too.
Thanks, Chelsea. So we ended up with, it is a piece for solo bass clarinet. And just to give you kind of an idea of the timeline that we were working with, Chelsea and I met 2011, I think, or 2012. We met in 2012 at the Fresh Ink Festival. And for years and years, for over 10 years, I'd been wanting to work with her. So I finally, in 2023, I reached out to her and said, hey, would you be interested in writing a piece that I might premiere at Clarinet Fest in Dublin? So we started the process of talking about like how long that piece might be and what kinds of inspiration might be behind it. And we used kind of like, I guess, a mixed funding model. So I applied for some funding through the university to cover the cost of commissioning the piece and to pay Chelsea, appropriately for her work on it. So I got a little bit of funding through the university. And then we also set up a consortium for the piece, which I'm aware that some people on this call actually joined the consortium. So thank you for joining that. We really appreciate you. And then some of the funding came from my own personal funds as well. I know Chelsea wanted to talk a little bit about setting up the consortium, because I think this is actually the first piece that you have funded at all through a consortium. Is that right, Chelsea?
Yes, the only like self-made consortium. That's correct. I'm part of another like made for me one now, and I love the consortium model. I think it's everybody wins. And this one was really kind of special in that it was like really kind of crowdsourced. It wasn't like a consortium where we contacted like three other people and it was really formal and we each had a contract that like we know who was going to join ahead of time. It was like, hey, who wants to join this consortium? And then like we all kind of banded together. Like I think that's a really cool model and a really nice way to democratize new music and the creation of new pieces, which can be out of reach for a lot of solo performers. So yeah, I think I was really pleased to be part of this model. And thank you, Erin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I really like that phrase you said, democratizing new music, because I know, speaking for myself, that sometimes my options to join consortiums have been limited because of cost. And I wanted students to be able to join, and I wanted anybody who was interested to be able to join without it having too major of an impact on finances, while also making sure that we were paying Chelsea appropriately for her time and work. And so the final score was delivered in September. So it was actually just about a month ago we got the final copy of it. So I thought it might be kind of fun, since we had mentioned that we had a very collaborative working process, to actually play a little bit of the piece and play a little bit of the inspiration behind it. And Chelsea, I'll let you like jump in whenever you have something that you want to add. But there are two moments that happen in this piece that I think really showcase the kind of collaborative operation that we had going. And by the way, if you didn't pick up on it, I'm in Arkansas and Chelsea is in Montreal. So we're obviously doing this totally remotely. So all of this happened via Zoom calls. The whole process was via Zoom. So at a certain point when we were meeting about sounds for the piece, Chelsea played me a little bit of the Dune soundtrack and asked me if I could replicate that sound on the bass clarinet. If you haven't seen the movie Dune, just so you're not shocked, I want to give you a little warning that this is kind of a creepy sound. So if you hear it and, it shocks you a little bit, I just want you to be ready. That was kind of our starting place. That is throat singing. So I'll show you a little snippet. So this is actually when I premiered the piece at Clarinet Fest in June. This is what I was looking at. And as you can see, apparently I can't read low notes on the bass clarinet, so I had to write in all of the fingerings. But as we were working through trying to figure out how to replicate that sound on bass clarinet, there was a moment where Chelsea said, "Hey, Erin, can you play?" It was slap tongue, a multiphonic, and flutter tongue all at the same time. And I said, "No, that's not possible. I'll try it, but I don't think that's going to be possible." Turns out it is possible. And it's a really unique effect. And I mean, I'm not aware of other pieces. There may be something out there that has that effect in it. But I haven't come across it yet. It's a really unique sound. So I'll show you how the final the final score looks like. So as you can see, it's a spectral multiphonic, and then you're also singing at the same time and slap tonguing. That's the plus icon. And I'll play you a little bit of the sound of me performing this section. love that. I think that is such cool writing. And the thing that is really awesome about performing that is that it kind of feels like it has the same sort of spirit of the original throat singing sound that Chelsea had found, but it's it's something that I can create totally myself on my own instrument. And I'll talk about one other moment in the piece that we worked collaboratively to create. So as Chelsea was working on, and Chelsea, please do bump in. I know, bump in anytime to add your own 2 cents about this.
Sure. No, you're doing great. Yeah. Thank you.
So Chelsea showed me this video it's an elk chuckle, and it's a sound that wild elk make during a rutting season, which is their like territory finding and establishing season. And this is also a very strange sound. So she played this for me and then, asked me if I could make this sound. It's just such a bizarre sound. And I think we're both really drawn to it, but it doesn't even, that is not the sound I expect to come out of an elk.
I think if I remember, I was like looking up different animal calls, and I remember, oops, sorry, my baby switches. I think I looked up like, what is the animal that sounds like a Nazgul? And then came across like, oh, it's an elk. Like that's okay.
It's a crazy sound, and it sounds kind of alien too. I think that was part of the appeal of it too. So this is a copy of the score that I performed off of. So it was actually kind of a draft copy of the sound. So we worked together on Zoom, and of course, so I had ideas about using like multiphonics and using flutter tongue and spectral multiphonics, flutter tongue, like all these different sounds to try and get this. And Chelsea just has such an incredible ear. So it was really fun to work with her because even though, I had some of the contemporary music know-how on bass clarinet, but she had a very specific idea of what she was looking for. And so she'd say, can you hold this harmonic a little bit longer? And then can you go to a lower multiphonic instead of a higher multiphonic? And so that's why you can see I've penciled in like low multiphonic, penciled in some dynamics and some fingerings as well. And then this is the final copy of the score that we have to work off of now. So I'll play you just a little bit of this, and you'll probably hear how it's kind of related to the elk chuckle you just heard. Sorry, that one's kind of quiet. Hopefully that came through your speakers and or headphones okay. But we're hoping to release a recording of it online fairly soon so that you'll be able to actually hear the full piece. So we wanted to pivot and take a little bit of time at the end of the presentation. I love her. I love Arwen. To talk about some of the ethical considerations that came up as we were working together. So we mentioned this a little bit before, but I have not always been the best about this when working with composers. But with this project, I think I personally did a better job about communicating about payment before we even start work on the project. Because I have been in situations before working with composers where it's kind of a situation like we're friends, maybe there's not going to be payment involved. Maybe there'll be just a little bit of payment involved. And with this project, I really wanted to try and open up the door and be more clear ahead of time. So I tried to be really upfront anytime I was applying for funding or, when I was setting up the consortium, I would talk with Chelsea about it first. And we had a set budget before we started so that she knew she was getting started on the work, having an idea of, of what kind of compensation she was going to get for it. And then, as always, I realize I'm talking to a room of new music professionals here, so I don't need to say clear communication around deadlines and length of the piece and all that is important too. And the other aspect I was really thinking of as I worked with Chelsea is I really wanted a piece that I could take with me. So that's one of the reasons it was an unaccompanied piece that doesn't involve any electronics or any kind of other performers or extra equipment, because I wanted a piece that I would be able to perform a whole lot and just pick up and go. So, and again, I haven't always been the best about that in the past. There's definitely been a whole lot of pieces I've premiered and then never played the piece again. So, and that's no criticism of the piece itself, but with this piece, I really wanted to make sure I was setting up the most ethical possible, composer-performer relationship for us to work together. Chelsea, I know you wanted to talk just a little bit about PROs and publishing rights and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought all of like the ethical and whatever like legal considerations of this consortium and working with Erin were all like really well done. Everything was ideal. When it comes to performing the piece, like I feel like only a portion of musicians are kind of like aware of the whole PRO aspect. So when the work gets performed, it has to be reported by somebody to the PRO that the composer is a member of. So in the States, we have the main two are ASCAP and BMI. So I'm currently with ASCAP. So I think sometimes performers like either aren't aware of that or they like think they're the ones that are supposed to pay, and they get a little like nervous, like, can I perform this legally? Like, how do I do that? Like, should I not tell anybody? Like, I've had a variety. So the PRO is the one that pays the composer for the live performance. And it varies widely, but it's a not insignificant part of our income, I will say, especially when commissions are not usually at like market rates, we'd say. A lot of the value of commissions comes from the performance, and in the States we have it pretty good. Like our rates we're not talking streaming rates. Like streaming rates are like pennies or less, like per stream. We're talking about like a ticketed event at a non-university could be like a few $100s per performance for a chamber work. And it's usually the venue is like the legal one. Like I can't give legal advice, and I don't even fully understand all the nuances. Like the venue is usually the one who's like the default on the hook for the royalties to ASCAP, who then pays the composer. But if you have any questions about that, like talk to the composer. But if the performer is worried, like if they have to pay, the answer is almost always no. It's usually like if you're at a university, that's taken care of. That's its own thing. Yeah. So like ask questions about it, but also don't ignore the PRO aspect about live performances, because I think it's kind of like not very well known. Like it's not what it is and how to do it is not very well known.
And I think that we're about at time. So I'm going to stop my screen share. Chelsea and I would love to answer any questions you might have or any discussion that you might have about what we were talking about with this piece and about the process of premiering it. The piece is called Moons Over Spires of Echo 9, and it's for solo bass clarinet. And I believe, is it available for purchase on your website now, Chelsea, or?
Not yet, but when the exclusivity in our contract is up, it'll be likely available directly from my distributor, which is Subito Music. But we have a exclusivity contract in our consortium, so they have it till
Until
March. Is it?
I think March of 26. I should
Yeah.
any
So it
timeline
may
there.
be for sale before that, but the performance can't happen until after that.
Yeah. So we had a question, how long did this whole process take? So we first made contact well, obviously we've known each other for a long time, but we first made contact about a potential collaboration in March of 2023. So, and the piece was premiered in July of 2024. So the whole process took over a year. Yeah, so I reached out to Chelsea long before, even I think before applications opened for proposals for Clarinet Fest. I think before even that had opened, I had asked her because I'd been thinking about what might be a good option for that conference. And so I had contacted her even before that. Yes, and it says all accredited colleges and conservatories have blanket licenses with ASCAP and BMI. Yeah, that is true. How much lead time do you generally need for a new commission? That is a great question. I'm going to let Chelsea answer that. You're the composer in this group.
Sure, yeah. It again varies widely depending on the instrumentation. Like, you know, in general, the more instruments and the longer the pieces, the more time you're going to need. For a solo work that's rather short, which is what this was like a luxurious amount of lead time. Like to talk about it in 2023, and then it was due to Erin like by the like late spring of 2024. And that doesn't mean I spent the entire time working on it, though I could brainstorm, but it allows me to fit it into my other projects. So that's great if you can do it. Every composer is different. I've heard that some composers like will take several months for chamber work, and that's how they do it. I'm kind of like do a lot of thinking, a little bit of trying, and then like an explosion of work, like very in a short time. It's just like how my process works. So if somebody contacted me and said, "Can you write me a piece due in 2 months?" It would be like a little bit like, it's not great. Like if I started tomorrow, could I do it? Yeah, but can I fit that into my current projects with this amount of lead time? No. So maybe that answers, I don't know.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anyone who's here or comments? We appreciate y'all joining us.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This is such a great work, it looks like. So I'm really excited to see it available to people who may be interested to try it out once the period is over. We are going to be moving over to YouTube for our last two performances. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat. For that, feel free to follow the link for Potpourri Concert number 3, and we will see you in just a short minute.